What's going on, everyone? I am back, and as usual, coming at you with my weekly NFL game picks. We'll talk spread, we'll talk locks of the week, and without further ado, let's get into it and look at our Week 5 NFL games. Now, our first game of the week, we have got the New England Patriots at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Thursday night game, and looking at the Patriots, wow, I thought that they would blow at the Panthers last week. Instead, what did they go and do? Well, they lose on a last second field goal at home, and on top of that, they have the league's worst defense, historically bad. On the flip side, however, they do have the best offense in the league, playing behind Brady and all those weapons over there. Gronk will be playing, so that's another benefit for the Patriots. He was questionable. Um, on the flip side, we've got the Bucks, who I thought could potentially lose to the Giants. Instead, what do they go and do? Well, they have their own game-winning field goal on their end. What's the reward, however? Well, hosting the New England Patriots, who I don't think will lose back-to-back games. I think they're going to be pissed off about the loss from last week, and I think they're going to put it on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's only a couple weeks removed from the Bucks loss to the Vikings, and that was a pretty embarrassing loss. And I could see something in those realms happening again. I think that Patriots offense is too potent, and while that defense can be exposed, I don't think the Bucks have that offensive capabilities to keep up with the Patriots. I think probably similar to last week, it'll be a close game heading into the fourth, and then different, however, will be the fact that the Patriots will probably distance themselves from the Bucks late. That's what I would have to go with. Surprisingly, not a bad Thursday night matchup. I think it has a lot of potential. I like the Patriots outright. In terms of the spread, Bucks are plus 5.5 at home. And me personally, well, I like the Patriots still. I think they're going to be pissed off from last week, and like I said, they're going to bounce back, and usually when they do so, they do so big, and for that reason, I like the Patriots in terms of the spread. Moving on, we have got the Buffalo Bills at the Cincinnati Bengals, and looking at the Bills, talk about a team result that not a lot of people expected, if any, when they went to Atlanta and beat the Falcons, giving them their first loss of the season. They did it behind steady offense and a stifling defense. Now, on the other side, we've got the Bengals, who finally got their first win of the season, had their offensive explosion, but it was against the Cleveland Browns, so I think you take that with a grain of salt. Now, Bengals at home, I think this is a bad matchup for them. They've struggled all season offensively, and now they've got a Bills defense that looks legit. I think they are a prime team to regress this week. For that reason, I think this will probably be low scoring. I like the Bills to win. I think that defense is just too much for the Bengals to keep up with. And you've seen what the Bills' offense has been. Not necessarily eye-popping or anything like that, but they've done enough to stay in games and to put up more points than other teams with that defense. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen this week. Probably going to be a low-scoring game. I'll take the Bills. In terms of the spread, surprisingly, Bengals at minus 2.5 at home. But like I said, I like the Bills in this game. I'm going to go ahead, take them on the spread as well. Next, we have got the Jets at the Browns, and probably not too high on many people's watch list this game. But breaking it down, the Jets are 2-2, surprisingly, I would say. Browns are probably an expected 0-4. And not much has gone right for the Browns. Kaiser has looked good at times, but he hasn't really gotten any help. The running game hasn't done anything. Crowell has been a massive disappointment. After Coleman went down, the receivers have been struggling a little bit. And that defense, without Myles Garrett, hasn't looked that great either. With the Jets, however, I think they have benefited, obviously, from some weaker opponents. But they have had, however, some surprising wins last week versus Jacksonville. I would categorize that in the realm of an upset. And now they go versus a susceptible Browns team. Honestly, I think that they should be favored right now as well. They've got a more experienced quarterback than Kaiser. They've got some weapons offensively, I think more so than the Browns. And look, they're coming off a good win, and I think they should be able to keep it up. Uh, Basically, though, I think in the long run, it's probably a flip of a coin as to which team wins. I could see either of them winning. I just like the Jets outright, I would have to say. I think they're more stable on offense, more balanced, even if it's barely. And on the flip end, in terms of the spread, well, Browns are actually favored -1.5 at home. And honestly, I haven't seen anything from the Browns to warrant that. I know it's against the Jets, but still, I actually like the Jets on the road. So for that reason, I like the Jets with the spread. The spread. Continuing on, we have got the Carolina Panthers at the Detroit Lions. Look, both these teams 3-1, coming off impressive wins. Panthers versus the Patriots, like I mentioned, and then Lions versus the Vikings. In terms of analyzing this game, though, I think you have to look at the offenses because to me, the defenses are a wash. Panthers maybe a little bit better, but I don't think by that much. I think in terms of the secondary, they can be exposed. You saw that last week with Brady putting up 30 points on them. Now, on the flip side, however, offenses. I think that's where you have to look, and starting and ending at the quarterback position. Now, here it's Cam versus Stafford, and you have to like what you saw from Cam versus the Patriots. Had a really nice performance, got that rushing game going as well on his end. I think the question is, however, will that be something that is sustained and something that is, encouraged from the Carolina coaching staff for Cam to continue doing? Now, I think the more the Panthers push for that running game on Cam's part to grow, the better they will do. But I think, honestly, this week it won't matter too much. I think that Detroit Lions defense is a lot more stingy than the worst ranked defense in the league, and that of the Patriots. So I think that element will be taken away from Cam. And when that happens, he becomes a below average passer. On the flip side, Stafford, I think he's always been more accurate than Cam. And honestly, I think that's what this game will come down to. I think it'll come down to accuracy, and I think it'll come down to who has less turnovers. Now, I know both these quarterbacks can be turnover prone, but I think Cam is more mistake ridden, and for that reason, I give the edge to the Lions offense. And since the defenses for me are, in the most part, a wash, I like the Lions outright to win at home. In terms of the spread, they are at -2.5, and I could see this game getting settled by a field goal at minimum. So for that reason, I like the Lions to win at home and cover the spread. Next, we have got the Titans at the Dolphins in Miami, and talk about two teams that were incredibly underwhelming and disappointing last week. Titans versus the Texans got absolutely spanked, letting up 57 points, and then the Dolphins got shut out, and they got shut out by who? Oh yeah, that's right, the New Orleans Saints of all teams. Something that you wouldn't have thought possible with that Saints defense. In terms of breaking down this game, however, I think you have to look again at the offenses. Cutler has just been so inconsistent. Maybe not all his fault. Their running game hasn't been able to get going for the Dolphins. A big portion of what they relied on and what their identity was supposed to be this season. But I do think Ajayi could potentially have a good game here. You saw what Lamar Miller did to the Titans, so I think Ajayi should be a focal point in that offense for the Dolphins. On the flip side, for the Titans, Mariota did get nicked up, so I would say that's something to keep your eyes on. Now, even without Mariota, I kind of, at this point, would have to almost give the edge to the Titans regardless. They've got Castle, they've got weapons as well compared to the Dolphins, and if the New Orleans Saints defensively could shut out the Dolphins, then the Titans sure as hell can as well. So for that reason, I give again the edge defensively to the Titans, offensively to the Titans, even without Mariota, because Cutler has been so inconsistent. And I like them outright. In terms of the spread, Dolphins are at +2.5. I think, again, it comes down to what I saw last week versus the Saints, what I've seen from Cutler all season long being consistent, and I have to give the edge to the Titans. If Mariota plays, no question about it, that And for that reason, I like the Titans in terms of the spread as well. Continuing on, we have got another game that probably not too high in people's watchability for this week, and that is the 49ers at the Colts. 49ers 0-4, Colts 1-3, both coming off of losses. And look, Colts without Andrew Luck, not much to write home about in terms of that team offensively. 49ers, well, pretty much their entire offense is Carlos Hyde, Pierre Garçon. With the Colts, Jacoby Brissett has looked somewhat good versus weaker defenses, and I would put the 49ers in that category. They've still got T.Y. Moncrief showed up last week. Defensively, I think both teams subpar, so that pretty much cancels itself out. To me, Colts at home versus a weak defense, and I have to give the edge to the Colts. I think Brissett can do enough. I think his rushing will come into effect here, and for that reason, I like the Colts outright. In terms of the spread, they are -1.5. When it's all said and done, I think if the Colts win, they're going to win by at least 2 points. So for that reason, give me the Colts to cover as well. Next, we've got the Chargers at the Giants in New York, and talk about a matchup that not a lot of people would have expected to play out this way, and that is because both teams are sitting at 0-4. One of these teams will get their first win of the season. And with the Chargers, they just haven't been able to close out games. The first 2 weeks losing because of special teams. And Phillip Rivers throwing a lot of interceptions, a lot of turnovers, dealing with that. But still, they are very talented offensively. Don't make any mistakes about that. They've also got talent defensively. Probably not playing up to their capability defensively, however. The Giants, they've got those offensive line issues. However, without Odell Beckham, they just weren't the same team. You've seen with Odell back, they've been in the last 2 games they've played. And at home, I have to give them the slight edge. Both these quarterbacks can get turnovers and do so with the best of them. If anything, I can see this being a slugfest where there are a lot of turnovers. I have to give the Giants a little bit of an edge defensively, and being at home, I do like them to win this game outright. In terms of the spread, however, they are at -3.5, and honestly, just the way that these games have gone for both these teams, usually being decided by 2 or 3 points the last couple weeks, I think that'll be the case again, and I think the Giants win at the end of the fourth quarter, last second field goal, and for that reason, I'll take the Chargers to go in terms of the spread. Next, we've got the Battle of the Birds with the Cardinals versus the Eagles in Philly, and Cardinals sitting at 2-2, but I would say slow your roll, don't be fooled, because it's been 2 wins versus the Colts and the 49ers. And this team just isn't the same without David Johnson. He cannot be replaced. You've seen that. Also, I think Palmer is in the end of his career, unfortunately, and to me that spells, irrelevance for the Cardinals offensively. Their defense has been more respectable, but still, they can only do so much when that offense is inept, as it has been. On the flip side, the Eagles 3-1. Only loss has been versus the Chiefs, and it was a close loss at that. They've looked good offensively. Wentz, Smallwood, Blunt, Alshon, all those guys. Ertz on top of that. They've looked really good. Defensively, I think they've also looked respectable, and they'll be able to do enough defensively to withhold the Cardinals. I like the Eagles outright. I think they have too many pieces, and Cardinals just won't be able to keep up with that. In terms of the spread, Eagles are -6.5, and to me, again, at home, with that stable offensive attack, that's just too much for the Cardinals to keep up with, and I'll take the Eagles to cover the spread. Next, we have got the Jaguars at the Steelers, AFC matchup in Pittsburgh, and look, Jaguars coming off what I would categorize as an embarrassing loss versus the Jets, and then the Steelers coming off a really nice road divisional victory versus their rival, Baltimore Ravens. And at home, Steelers don't mess around. Big Ben is clutch at home. They've got Le'Veon Bell. They've got Martavius Bryant, Antonio Brown. Look for Antonio Brown to have a big week this week after all of that distraction and diva talk from last week. Jaguars, I know their defense has been up and down, hot and cold, playing so well versus the Ravens, but I think that had more to do with the ineptitude of the Ravens offense and then letting up 20 points versus the Jets. Assuredly, the Steelers offensively are better than the Jets, and for that reason, I think again they'll be able to take advantage of that Jaguars defense. The Jaguars offensively, they're average to below average. I think the Steelers at home defensively can do enough to cause problems for Bortles, create some turnovers, and I would have to give an edge in terms of every side of the ball to the Steelers. I think offensively, the Jaguars just won't be able to keep up with them. So I like the Steelers outright. In terms of the spread, Steelers are at -8.5. A little bit high, a little bit on the edge with this one, but again, I have to give the edge to the Steelers. At home, I just think they are a different football team and a good football team, if not great football team on top of that. After that, we have got another AFC matchup with the Ravens at the Raiders, and both teams sitting at 2-2 after a really nice start with 2 straight wins to start out the season 2-0, but then they've had 2 straight losses. Now, look, normally I would have said Raiders without a doubt at home, but what has changed? Well, Derek Carr is going to be out for 2 to 3 weeks, and EJ Manuel, not the same quarterback. Obviously, they've still got Crabtree, they've still got Cooper, Lynch. I think they're going to have to lean on Lynch quite a bit for this span without Carr, but I don't really have that much faith in EJ. The Ravens defense, even though they have lost 2 straight, they are a good defense. They've got playmakers defensively, and I think they'll be able to force the Raiders into mistakes. Although offensively, the Ravens, I will say it again, they are inept offensively. I think they can do enough to win this game just because the Raiders are without Derek Carr. You saw what that team became without Derek Carr last year going to the playoffs. They just are night and day different. For that reason, I like the Ravens on the road. And again, the main reason is because Derek Carr is not playing. As far as the spread, Raiders are at -3.5. Without Derek Carr, I just don't have faith in this team. So again, for that reason, I'm going to go with the Ravens. Now, transitioning to a divisional matchup that has a lot of people intrigued, we've got the Seahawks at the Rams. And in large part because the Rams have played so well, they're leading their division 3-1. Seahawks have struggled offensively greatly, 2-2. They've been up and down all year. You don't really know what to expect from them. They also just lost Chris Carson for the year, and that'll be an adjustment in the running game. Now, I will say this, however, if there is a game that the Rams decline in offensively, it would be this game. They have not faced a defense like this all year. The Seahawks will bring the pressure, they'll rush Goff, and they'll put a lot of opportunities in terms of turning the ball over on Goff. Now, things that you do have to consider is the fact that the Seahawks historically have played subpar in these divisional matchups, especially while Wilson has been there, particularly versus the Rams. And I think this will be a close game. Worst case scenario, I would say Rams offensively are a wash versus the Seahawks when taking that defensive pressure into account. And then I would give the Seahawks an edge defensively. And look, probably the riskiest pick I'll make with these selections for this week, but I'm going to go with the Seahawks on the road. And if the Rams do win this, I'll be the first one to say they are legit, they are for real. But until I see them go up against the real defense, I have to give the edge to the Seahawks. The Rams are favored -2.5, but I will ride with the Seahawks and this will be a great test for both teams to see where they stand. Continuing with another really interesting matchup, Packers versus the Cowboys. Both these teams led by their offenses. Packers 3-1, Cowboys 2-2. The game is in Dallas, so the Cowboys have a little bit of an edge there. But to me, honestly, I just have to give an edge to the Packers offensively. They've got Aaron Rodgers. They've got all those weapons with Jordy, with Cobb. Devontae Adams could potentially miraculously play. Ty Montgomery, we're hearing the rib injury wasn't as serious as people initially thought. So I give the edge to the Packers. The Cowboys offensively, obviously they got that offensive line, but for some reason they just haven't played as well as of yet to what people expected. Dak has looked good. Zeke has struggled at times. Maybe it's been all that off the field distraction stuff, but he did look good last week, getting going in the receiving and in the rushing game. Offensively, you want to see Dez Bryant have that really nice game, and if there is a defense that he can do that against, it is the Packers. Defense is not a strength for either of these teams, so I think if there's a game to watch for an offensive showdown, it is this game. Make no mistake about it. There will be a lot of points put up in this game, and as long as you've got Aaron Rodgers on your offense, I have to give you the edge. So for that reason, I like the Packers outright. Cowboys -1.5 at home. I think in large part that is because they are at home. You would see something quite dramatically different if this was in Green Bay, in Lambeau. And since I do like Rodgers in Green Bay, I have to give them the edge in terms of the spread. Moving on to Sunday night, we have got Chiefs versus the Texans in Houston. And Chiefs still sitting as the lone undefeated team at 4-0. Texans coming off that really impressive Titans victory where they put up 57 and they just had everything clicking for them. Now, I will say the Chiefs are a team built to travel. They have a really good defense and they have an offense that does not make a lot of mistakes. On the flip side, I don't think you can expect to see what you saw from Deshaun Watson or Lamar Miller every week, especially versus a Chiefs team that doesn't make a lot of mistakes defensively or offensively. To me, I think Watson, there's no way he's going to duplicate what he saw last week and what everyone expects for him. For all you fantasy people out there, hoping that he'll have a repeat. Lamar Miller, again, I think he'll find it a lot harder to run against that Chiefs defense. And defensively, the Texans are good. I'm not taking anything away from them, but so are the Chiefs. So if anything, defensively, this is a wash. Chiefs, to me, get the edge offensively. And for that reason, I have to go with the Chiefs on the road to stay undefeated and go to 5-0. The Texans at home, they are at +1.5. I think rarely does a game get decided by less than 2 points. And in a win, I like the Chiefs to win by at least 3, so I'll go ahead and take the Chiefs to cover that spread. And finally, we've got our Monday night divisional game, Vikings at the Bears in Chicago, and probably not that interesting of a game on the surface, but a lot of storylines here. First of all, the biggest one, Mike Glennon gets benched, and Mitch Trubisky, second overall pick, will make his first start. Now, he will do so versus a Minnesota defense that is no joke. On the flip side, the Vikings, obviously the news there, the Dalvin Cook injury, ACL tear, devastating injury. Who's going to step up? Will it be Latavius? Will it be McKinnon? How will they respond in that loss? Now, I think offensively, they still have enough weapons to cause problems for the Bears. They've got Stephon Diggs. They've got Thielen. Like I said, Keenum has played better. He's become more comfortable. And if you're comparing offenses, the Vikings, even without Dalvin Cook, have an extreme edge over the Bears. I don't care if the Bears are at home. This is Trubisky's first start. Not a good matchup. Throw everything you saw in the preseason out the window. This is regular season football, and it's week 5. So it's not the first week where everyone's feeling each other out. For that reason, I give the Vikings the edge offensively, no doubt, the edge defensively again, and for that reason, I like them to win outright. As far as the spread goes, Bears are at +3.5, and I know maybe initially it'll be interesting to see what Trubisky can do. Maybe he'll keep them in the game with his athleticism, with just that spirit. But honestly, I think as the game goes on, the Vikings pull away, and for that reason, I like them to win by at least a touchdown. So give me the Vikings to cover that spread. So with that, we get to the end of our pick'em segment. But as far as the locks of the week go, I'll start with Arizona at Philadelphia. I like Philadelphia. Look, it's cut and dry. They're better offensively and defensively. Arizona is on the decline massively. Next, I also really like Pittsburgh at home versus the Jaguars. Big Ben at home. Don't want to bet against him. And Jaguars have been too up and down, just losing to the Jets. Got to give the edge to the Steelers. And then finally, Minnesota at Chicago. Chicago with Trubisky making his first rookie start. Got to give the edge to the Vikings defensively for that and offensively as well. So with that, let me know what you guys think. Do you agree with the picks, with the overall picks, with the spread picks, with the locks of the week? If you have any other questions, let me know. And if you enjoyed, like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in future videos.